Kazuhiro Kitase's wildest dream turns real when the elf girl from his fantasy world wakes up right next to him. Our story opens on a serene bridge lined with cherry blossoms. As our protagonist strolls across, he ponders how everyone has at least one mysterious side. Some folks look gorgeous but sing like a drowning cat, others stay skinny despite devouring buffets, and then there are those who aren't exactly eye candy but still manage to snag dates left and right. As for our man on the bridge, well, his quirk is a whole other level. Meet Kazuhiro Kitase. By day, he's a typical office drone who refuses to work a second past quitting time. Everyone else might climb the corporate ladder or bar hop after hours, but Kazuhiro's true passion is sleeping. Seriously, the man lives to snuggle under the covers and drift off, but not just for beauty rest. He's got a dream world to explore. In his sleep, he's off battling monsters, exploring hidden ruins, and sometimes running for his life instead of his next promotion. One dream, while washing his face in a crystal-clear river, he notices he hasn't aged a day. Apparently, dream skincare is better than any face cream. Suddenly, a pointy-eared girl named Mariabelle appears. She's an elf with amethyst eyes, over 100 years old, and way too sassy for her own good. She teases Kazuhiro about his primitive lifestyle in this dream realm and jokes that he looks more elven than she does. He tries to laugh it off, explaining that his name here is Kazuhiro, thanks to a childhood typo when he first created this dream persona. To smooth things over, Kazuhiro invites Mariabelle to explore the ancient Nizal ruins. Naturally, she wonders what kind of human would find that romantic, but he bribes her with the promise of snacks, proving that no one else or otherwise can resist free grub. The Nizal ruins, once a thriving underground city, now lie deserted and wrapped in mystery. Legend has it a deadly virus caused the downfall of this magical civilization, though Kazuhiro is skeptical that a mere bug could topple a society so advanced. Still, his main focus is hanging out with Mariabelle, not solving a historical whodunit. Inside the ruins, Mariabelle flexes her magical skills by casting a spell that summons glowing spirits to light their way. Kazuhiro, meanwhile, is equal parts impressed by her power and thrilled at the companionship. Sure, the place is ancient and maybe cursed, but hey, at least he's got a feisty elf by his side. Needing a break, Kitase finds a spot for a snack. Mariabelle's eyes light up like a kid on Christmas when she opens the lunchbox. Without hesitation, she dives in and devours the sushi and inari Kitase packed. Between bites, she declares that joining him on this trip was the best decision ever. But just as things seem peaceful, someone lurking in the shadows spies on their little picnic. After eating, Mariabelle brushes off Kitase's casual suggestion of doing this again. She proudly proclaims she's always busy studying witchcraft, though somehow she still finds time to hang out with him. Suddenly, her sharp elf senses kick in and she yanks Kitase back just in time to spot a monster armed to the teeth. Kitase, ever the reckless dreamer, charges at the creature full speed. Mariabelle freaks out, but her panic turns to confusion when the lizard monster greets Kitase instead of attacking him. Turns out, the two are old pals. Or something like that. The lizard, jealous of Kitase hanging out with Mariabelle, gets straight to the point. Kitase assures him she's only here for the food. Mariabelle, clueless about their exchange because they're chatting in the monster's language, is stunned to learn Kitase can speak lizard. He explains he got attacked so many times that learning their language felt like a survival skill. The lizard warns them about a dragon deep within the ruins. It's mating season, so the beast's mood is about as friendly as a hangry Karen. Kitase, ever the optimist, jokes about wanting to see the dragon's eggs, but Mariabelle knows better. Dragons during mating season don't do friendly. As they venture deeper, Mariabelle casts a night vision spell on Kitase so he can finally see the massive dragon snoozing in the dark. Its radiant scales give off mana so strong it could power a whole city. Mariabelle realizes it's an arcane dragon, a rare creature that only shows up once every 1,000 years. Unfortunately, her loud whispering wakes the dragon, and it is not happy. As the dragon roars to life, Kitase suggests the reasonable thing, running for their lives. But before they can escape, a gate slams shut, trapping them inside. The dragon spews a massive wave of fire, engulfing the room. As Kitase faces his flaming demise, he can't help but regret not checking out those dragon eggs first. Next thing he knows, Kitase wakes up safe in his bed in Japan, What a weird dream, right? Except there's a suspicious bulge under his blanket. Pulling it back, he's shocked to find Maribel, yes, the elf from his dream, sleeping next to him. And she's very real. Staring at the ceiling, Kitase wonders how she got here and why. When Maribel wakes up, still groggy, she casually notes that he looks older than usual. Before he can explain, she screams upon realizing she's naked. Wrapping herself in his blanket, she demands Kitase find her some clothes. So now Kitase, still bewildered, spends his day off shopping for women's clothes. As he questions everything about his dream world, Maribel is busy marveling at modern Tokyo. She's convinced Kitase must be rich to live in such a big building and is blown away by the sight of the Skytree Tower. Kitase explains it's a tourist spot and suggests visiting during Sakura season for the view. When she asks what sakuras are, Kitase decides it's better to show her in person. But before they head out, the elf, in her usual clumsy charm, accidentally drops her blanket while hugging him to thank him for the adventure ahead. Once she's dressed, Kitase gives her a hat to hide her ears. After all, Japan doesn't exactly have an elf population. While he's still wondering if he somehow brought her here by accident, maybe the dragon's fire had something to do with it, Maribel is excited to explore this new world. That is, until she gets into a car for the first time and loses her cool. Modern transportation isn't for everyone, apparently. After some minor car trauma, they arrive at a restaurant. Kitase orders food and Maribel begins grilling him about how and why she ended up in Japan. She remembers nothing after the arcane dragon attack, except that Kitase seems older here. The boy, equally clueless, admits he's trying to figure it out too. Then he drops the bomb. He might be traveling between worlds in his sleep. He explains that what he thought was just a dream is actually real, and somehow Maribel got caught up in it, probably because of their close call with the dragon. Maribel freaks out thinking she's dead, but Kitase assures her that she's alive and should be able to return to her world if she sleeps in this one. She's not convinced, but the arrival of food instantly distracts her. Priorities, right? Over lunch, Kitase theorizes that time might flow differently between the two worlds. When Maribel asks his age, he casually says he's 25. This shocks her. Owls age slower after all, but the moment is short-lived as she falls in love with the food. After lunch, it's time for the grand reveal. Kitase takes Maribel to see the cherry blossoms. The sakuras, in full bloom, leave the elf completely mesmerized. She starts imagining that spirits must be behind such beauty, and Kitase agrees, explaining how special this season is in Japan. He encourages her to fully experience this world while she's here. Blushing, Maribel tucks her hair behind her ear, a gesture that leaves Kitase a little speechless. The moment grows even sweeter when Maribel grabs his arm and pulls him along, walking together through the plaza. That night, Kazuhiko and Marie take a stroll to see the sakura blossoms. Marie is absolutely blown away, thinking these flowers are the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She even imagines this is what a world without monsters would look like. Kazuhiko burst her bubble. Even without monsters, humans would just fight each other. Look at Japan. We're no eternal peace poster child. As he says this, he notices how beautiful Marie looks under the glowing sakuras and feels a little stunned. Marie, on the other hand, is suddenly serious. She asks what happens if she can't go back to her world. Kazuhiko casually suggests, "We could live together and travel around Japan. You know, see more spots like this." Marie secretly loves the idea. Back home, Kazuhiko asks if Marie wants to take a bath. Before she can answer, he starts rambling. "What if you go back to your world and we never see each other again?" But Marie doesn't hear a word. She's too busy panicking over the bath soap. She's convinced it's some kind of black magic because the water just keeps pouring out of nowhere. Kazuhiko, barely holding in his laughter, hands her some bath salts and says, "Try these. You'll feel like a princess." Marie, holding the salts, jokes, "I already feel like a noble." While she's humming in the bath, Kazuhiko chops onions for dinner, thinking how weird it is to see this side of her. In her world, she's battling dragons. Here, she's terrified of soap. Meanwhile, Marie is in the bath, thinking about Kazuhiko's offer to live together. Honestly, it doesn't sound bad. Marie steps out of the bath to the smell of dinner. Even before eating, she's already blown away by how good it looks. Kazuhiko serves her a simple dish, pork chop with sauce and an egg, but Marie acts like it's a 5-star meal. "This is the best thing I've ever eaten," she exclaims. Kazuhiko rolls his eyes but secretly feels proud. He mentions they can pack leftovers into lunchboxes, even for the other world. This leads to a weird conversation about how only lunchboxes seem to transfer between worlds. Watches, flashlights, and notebooks? No luck. When he shows her what a flashlight is, she's completely unimpressed. Marie guesses technology just doesn't work in her world, and maybe it's connected to how Kazuhiko brought her to Earth. She even starts wondering if he's on some kind of mission. They remember that if Marie goes back, they'll still wake up in the arcane dragon's lair. Kazuhiko pulls out a notebook to brainstorm. First idea: hold the dragon eggs hostage. They both quickly realize that's a terrible plan. An angry dragon mom would never stop hunting them. Marie points out that arcane dragons are smarter than humans and have endless mana thanks to their magical breath. These dragons aren't just big lizards, they're walking natural disasters. They can sink islands, erupt volcanoes, and have taken on humans and demons for ages. But Kazuhiko wants to know something less dramatic. Do dragons have hobbies? Like, what do they do for fun? Marie, confused, says dragons don't have personalities, but adds their scales are super valuable. Oh, and there's a weird rumor about dragons disguising themselves as humans to sneak into cities. She thinks it's nonsense, though. Kazuhiko, now curious, asks why a dragon would even bother going into a city. Marie shares a story about one hanging out in the port city of Osloid, doing nothing but lurking for a few days before leaving. Kazuhiko seems to figure something out and silently opens the fridge. Marie, meanwhile, plops down on the bed, finally appreciating how comfy it is. Kazuhiko, still looking serious, mentions Marie forgot something important. She brushes it off and suggests testing their new secret weapon to return to her world. To do that, she thinks they should hug, just like when they transferred the first time. As they hug, Marie feels Kazuhiko's warmth and dozes off. Next thing they know, they're back at the dragon's nest. Before they can celebrate, the arcane dragon returns, swinging her massive tail at them. They barely dodge it. Thinking fast, Kazuhiko introduces himself and Marie, apologizes for trespassing, and takes all the blame. He even says he forced Marie to come along. Marie, completely lost, wonders if Kazuhiko can speak dragon. She remembers his advice about staying calm and showing you're no threat. That's when Kazuhiko pulls out his genius peace offering, a bottle of liquor. He cracks it open, explaining it's a special brew from Osloid. The dragoness, speaking in a surprisingly feminine voice, is impressed that Kazuhiko knows what dragons like. She's curious about how they survived her fire earlier. If they explain, she'll let them go. They tell her everything, and she not only spares them, but even escorts them out of the cave. Before they leave, the dragoness shows them her eggs. Kazuhiko kneels to admire them, feeling the warmth she uses to protect them. Then, she sniffs the air and asks if he's hiding something. That's when Kazuhiko realizes it's the smell of the katsudon bento box he packed earlier. He awkwardly asks if the smell is bothering her, or if she's just interested in a snack. The dragoness eyes the tiny liquor bottle and katsudon, but admits the bottle's too small to even wet her lips. Plus, she's not comfortable in her current form. With a dramatic flex, she uses mana to spit out a blob of molten slime, which morphs into a stunning human-like woman. Now fully transformed, she demands the drink and food immediately. Kazuhiko tries to downplay the meal, saying it's just a simple katsudon, but the dragoness confesses she craves human food, something she can't make herself. Then, trying to save face, she says she just wants a little taste to satisfy her curiosity. Mari, utterly confused, asks what's going on. Kazuhiko smirks and says she just really wants the katsudon. The dragoness ups the stakes, offering one of her mana-infused scales in exchange. Knowing how rare these scales are, Kazuhiko agrees. The dragoness devours the katsudon like a starving dragon. Oh wait, she is one. To top it off, Kazuhiko pours her a glass of Osloid liquor. She downs it in one gulp and almost explodes with joy, but pretends it's no big deal to keep her dragon dignity intact. She even asks if humans eat this well every day. Kazuhiko laughs and says no, adding that this kind of food doesn't exist in her world. The dragoness half-jokingly says she might conquer a village just to get more. As Kazuhiko mentions they're scoring a dragon scale for the meal, Marie's jaw drops. She can't believe they're trading lunch for something priceless. But then the dragoness notices the second katsudon and demands it too. Kazuhiko hesitates since it belongs to Marie, but the dragoness offers another reward, a mysterious stone soaked in her blood. She explains it was created when her blue blood dripped onto it the day she laid her eggs. Marie nearly loses it, insisting they take the deal. That stone is worth a fortune. It's rumored to cure diseases. Kazuhiko agrees, and the dragoness happily wolfs down the second katsudon. With both deals struck, the dragoness allows them to leave her nest on one condition. They must return with 4 more obentos. As they leave, Marie is blown away by the fact that they traded katsudon for such rare treasures. The dragon bloodstone, rumored to cure any disease, is practically priceless. Kazuhiko suggests they could sell it or give it to someone in need, but Marie warns them that such an item could draw dangerous attention. If people discover where it came from, the dragoness's nest might be at risk. While walking, Kazuhiko suddenly stops, piecing together the dragon's history and the ruins. According to Marie, the dragon once chased thieves to an underground city, drove out the residents, and made it her nest. It would explain the ruins they're standing in and the city's mysterious downfall. Marie decides they'll figure out what to do with the treasures later. For now, they leave the dragon's nest, with Kazuhiko entrusted to keep everything safe. He worries about losing the items, but Marie promises not to get mad if that happens, though her tone says otherwise. As they continue their journey, Kazuhiko feels bittersweet, knowing their time together is running out. But Marie assures him she'll find a way to return to Japan with him. The next day, as Kitase returned from work, he couldn't quite wrap his head around how Maribel had ended up in his world. Yet here she was, living in his room. It was a bit of an adjustment for him. After all, having a beautiful girl with purple eyes and white hair sharing his space wasn't exactly ordinary. Maribel was glued to the TV again, trying to learn Japanese. Sometimes she looked so serious that Kitase joked the TV might start sweating under her intense gaze. When Kitase walked in, Maribel greeted him without missing a beat, welcoming him back like she'd been doing it all her life. But then she admitted that she hadn't even noticed him coming in. Kitase explained that he didn't want to interrupt her, especially since she looked so focused. He decided to tell her about his latest supermarket triumph. He had scored chicken at a great discount and was planning to make gyoza. The moment he mentioned it, Maribel tilted her head, clearly confused. She had no idea what gyoza was. As he started prepping the ingredients, Maribel suddenly blurted out a Japanese word. Kitase nearly dropped the knife. He stared at her in disbelief, and she grinned proudly, explaining that she was working on full sentences now, and was determined to master Japanese soon. Kitase, still in mild shock, asked how soon she planned to become fluent. With a confident smile, she declared, 2 months. It was hard not to admire her determination. Later, Kitase brought her a drink, but instead of drinking it, Maribel leaned closer to him. She sniffed his suit and casually commented that it suited him really well. That left Kitase a blushing mess, and he quickly suggested she should smell the drink instead. Maribel's cheeks turned pink as she mumbled something about him being embarrassing. When dinner was ready, Maribel's reaction was pure gold. The moment she tasted the gyoza, her eyes lit up like fireworks. She practically inhaled her portion, declaring it the most delicious thing she'd ever eaten. Kitase reassured her there was plenty, so she didn't have to hold back. After the meal, she leaned back, completely satisfied. She praised Kitase's cooking and added that he should definitely cook for her again. He teased her, saying he would because she was a cute elf, but it hit him that she'd probably had one too many drinks. While Kitase washed the dishes, Maribel brought up a completely different topic: dragon scales and bloodstones. She asked where they were, but Kitase admitted he didn't know. He reassured her, though, that they'd get everything back once they returned to the other world. He explained how odd it was that every time he came back to this world, everything from the other world disappeared. His body, clothes, even his bag. Maribel, always the thinker, suggested there might be someone or something behind this strange phenomenon. Kitase agreed, vowing to get to the bottom of it one day. Maribel sighed dramatically, mentioning her magical research papers. She confessed that they were boring and seemed pointless. Kitase found the whole concept of magical research papers a bit strange, but he didn't say so out loud. Instead, he asked if she'd ever seen a magical stone. Maribel said no, they were just a legend. But then again, she pointed out, people had thought the human form of a dragon was a myth. And look how that turned out. Maybe the stone was real too. Kitase nodded and suggested they look for it someday. Maribel agreed, but made it clear that he'd be responsible for bringing lunch. It was night, and Kitase and Maribel were asleep in the same bed. Kitase had been going to bed earlier than usual lately, probably because of Maribel. She had mentioned learning Japanese in 2 months, which made him think she would be staying longer. The next day they arrived in another world. Maribel commented on the nice weather, and Kitase quickly said, "Let's go." When she asked about the ruin they were heading to, Kitase opened his map and replied, "It's called Ujok Peak Ruins." Maribel noticed it was quite far and would take time to reach. Kitase reassured her, saying they would get there quickly with his skills. "Hold on to me," he said, and they descended underground. "It's dark," Maribel remarked. Kitase explained they were traveling underground and it would be quick. Maribel enjoyed the speed, and Kitase shared that his skill worked like a train to cover long distances fast. As they traveled, Maribel noted that most of Kitase's skills seemed focused on battle. Kitase said they should learn skills for travel too, and that this one wouldn't work in high-energy areas or with too much weight. He added that Maribel wasn't heavy, so she didn't need to worry. Embarrassed, she asked him to let her down, which he did gently. Maribel sighed, commenting it felt like a long journey. Kitase reassured her it would take no more than 20 minutes. "I usually travel alone with this skill, so I'm not sure what to expect when traveling with someone else." Maribel, now nervous, clung to him. After some time, they arrived at Jal Shikar, a desert-like ruin with people searching for magical stones and raw materials. A fort had been built for protection, but no one had been able to extract stones for over 200 years. The place had become a ruin, though there was still a faint energy in the air, and the stones lay buried deep beneath the earth. Kitase shared what he knew, but Maribel was too tired from the heat. "Why did I come here? It's just sand, rocks, and ruins. I'm exhausted." Kitase nodded, acknowledging the long journey. "We've come this far. We just need to go a little further." With some hesitation, Maribel mustered up the courage and began walking, even though she really didn't feel like it. What could she do? The funniest part came a bit later, when Maribel tripped and fell flat on her face after walking a little further. Meanwhile, a child who was imprisoned with a strange blue-colored stone lying nearby. Eventually, Kitase and Maribel reached the location. Maribel looked around, realizing that from a distance it had looked like just a hill, but up close, it appeared more like abandoned houses. Kitase nodded and explained that it used to be a thriving community, a whole town. Maribel couldn't help but wonder if they'd really be able to find the magical stone. Kitase reassured her, saying that if it were that easy, the place would be filled with treasure hunters. He told her not to worry and that they would definitely find it. His confidence helped calm her, and a smile spread across Maribel's face. As they continued on, Kitase started feeling uneasy, as if they were being watched. Maribel noticed his tension and asked him what was wrong. Kitase shrugged it off, telling her it was nothing. They continued walking, distracted by the beautiful scenery around them. Eventually, they found a spot to rest, sitting down to eat. Maribel took a bite of Kitase's meal and immediately praised his cooking. She said that the meal was totally worth the long walk, and the stunning view made the moment even better. Curious about Kitase's abilities, Maribel asked him about his other skills. Kitase smirked and joked, asking if she wanted to see his stats. He admitted that he had never seen anyone else's stats either. Maribel, feeling a bit playful, agreed to show him hers, but warned him not to share it with anyone, as it was forbidden by her guild. Kitase raised an eyebrow and chuckled, remarking that her guild seemed to have some serious rules. His response was reflective of her own past and mindset. After dinner, they checked their statuses. Kitase's level was a remarkable 72, making him incredibly powerful. Maribel's level wasn't as high, and she explained that she focused more on studying and learning magic than on fighting. She added that her level didn't increase as quickly that way. Kitase nodded thoughtfully, telling her that a magician's job wasn't to fight all the time. "This grounds me," he said. Their role was to uncover ancient and mysterious things, which made spiritual magicians like her so special. During their conversation, Maribel discovered a new skill in Kitase's list that she hadn't seen before. She asked him about it and he gave her a brief explanation, which left her impressed. After chatting for a little while longer, they decided to continue their journey. Meanwhile, a few men were watching from a distance. They noticed Kitase and Maribel and whispered among themselves. One of them ordered that the two should be turned into food for the monsters and instructed someone to give the imprisoned child some water to drink. The poor child looked absolutely terrified. Back with Maribel and Kitase, Maribel decided to show off a bit by performing a magic trick. She summoned a fire lizard, which Kitase found rather cute. But then, Maribel took it a step further, evolving the lizard into a more fearsome version. She explained with a grin that it boosted her magic power a lot. Kitase was genuinely impressed and asked if she could store magic for later use. Maribel nodded, saying that she could, but didn't do it very often. Suddenly, a monster appeared, but Kitase swiftly jumped into the air and landed a powerful strike, ending the monster with a single blow. Afterward, Kitase told Maribel to step back a little, and almost immediately, 3 more monsters appeared. Once again, Kitase jumped into action, effortlessly taking them out. Meanwhile, 2 men were watching the scene unfold, amazed by the child's power. They marveled at his speed, noting that he had defeated the monster with just 1 attack. Another man then approached and said that he wanted to see. Using a technique called Steel Eye, he peered into Kitase's bag, discovering the magical scale and the bloodstone. He examined them carefully and remarked that he didn't know exactly what Kitase had, but he had never seen anything like it before. The men grew concerned and said to the boss that the child's level was very high and maybe they wouldn't be able to defeat him. The boss, however, remained calm and replied that they had someone else with them, so they shouldn't worry. At that moment, the child was brought forward and the boss turned to him. He told the child that he was their friend and needed to help them now. If the child didn't, he wouldn't give him his salary, leaving him hungry to die on his own. Meanwhile, Kitase continued running, and his magical lizard unleashed a fire attack, defeating the last monster. As they made their way forward, Kitase felt something strange again. He turned around and noticed that Maribel was also surprised. They both saw the child holding the magical stone, and then, in a shocking turn of events, the child used the stone to summon a massive monster. Both Kitase and Maribel froze in fear. Kitase observed that looking at the situation, it was clear that the child's level was extremely high and he was very powerful. They might not be able to defeat him. Kitase quickly told Maribel to run away, but before they could react, the monster attacked them, and they were both forced to return to the real world. Breathing heavily, they looked at each other, feeling a sense of relief. Maribel sighed and said that her heartbeat had been racing so fast. They both took a moment to relax and shared a cup of coffee. Maribel smiled, saying that it felt so good now. Kitase nodded and then shared something that had been bothering him. When they arrived, he felt like someone was watching them. Even while fighting the monster, he noticed people keeping an eye on them. He added that those people were probably searching for their bags and bodies right now. The conversation shifted to the strange child, and Kitase admitted that he was honestly confused about all of this. They changed the subject, and Maribel cheerfully said that Kitase should get ready for the office. But Kitase smiled and replied that he didn't have to go to the office today. He grinned and added that they should enjoy the weekend together. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Kazuhiro and Maribel are making the most of the weekend, since he has the day off. Maribel is really impressed by how clean and beautiful the rivers are, something she hasn't seen in her world. As they enjoy the peaceful scenery, Kazuhiro asks if she can hear the water spirits in the river. Maribel shakes her head, explaining that the spirits are too far away in this world, almost like they don't exist at all. Just then, a kitten appears in front of them, and Maribel is completely stunned. She's never seen a cat before, so this is a huge surprise for her. Cats don't exist in her world, so this is a big surprise. Kazuhiro warns her to be careful since cats are usually pretty cautious, but to their luck, the kitten seems to like Mariabelle, and they enjoy a peaceful moment together. Wanting to help Mariabelle learn the language, Kazuhiro takes her to the local library. It's a huge difference from the libraries in her world, where books are rare and so sensitive to sunlight that the places are dark and dusty. Here the library is bright, clean, and filled with books that are constantly being made. Kazuhiro figures he'll start her off with children's books for easy reading, but Mariabelle gets annoyed, insisting she's not dumb enough for those. Instead, he leads her to a section with beautiful illustrated books. She finds a book about kittens living their lives and telling funny stories, which happens to be one of Kazuhiro's favorite series. The book looks great, but Mariabelle can't read the symbols yet, so Kazuhiro promises to read it to her later. She picks out a few more books to enjoy at home. When they head to the checkout counter, Kazuhiro is surprised to see Ichijo, an old acquaintance of his. Ichijo is thrilled to see him again and is shocked by how beautiful Mariabelle is. Kazuhiro explains that Mariabelle is a distant relative from abroad, and they're borrowing the books to help her practice the language. This is a perfect moment for Mariabelle to practice her Japanese, so she immediately introduces herself to Ichijo. Ichijo does the same, but then Mariabelle asks Kazuhiro what Miss means, since that's what Ichijo called her. The elf thinks it's something rude, but Kazuhiro reassures her that it's a term of respect. Mariabelle decides to be respectful and tells Ichijo, "I'm pleased to meet you, Miss Ichijo," which leaves the librarian completely stunned. She's shaking for some reason, and Kazuhiro just chuckles, saying he gets it. He's seen this happen before. Ichijo starts to get a little suspicious, thinking Kazuhiro might be flirting with Mariabelle, but Kazuhiro insists that Mariabelle is just a very innocent girl and that their relationship is strictly platonic. Ichijo, still a little confused, asks if Kazuhiro would flirt with her if he had the courage. Kazuhiro quickly shuts that down again, explaining that he wouldn't want to ruin the friendship. Ichijo finally relaxes, understanding the situation, and hopes everything stays as it is. When it's time to check out, Kazuhiro hands over his documentation, and Ichijo is shocked to find out they both live in the same building. They never even realized it, which is a huge coincidence. Mariabelle is totally confused and wants to know what's going on, so Kazuhiro explains the situation. Just then, Ichijo suggests they all go out for a meal since they've been living so close to each other. Kazuhiro agrees, but Ichijo makes it clear she's mostly interested in becoming friends with Mariabelle, and that Kazuhiro might not be needed in this little plan. Kazuhiro explains to Mariabelle that Ichijo wants to be her friend and invited them both out for dinner. Mariabelle is super happy about it, and Kazuhiro is also glad that the elf will have her first real friend in Japan. That evening, while Kazuhiro is making dinner, Mariabelle asks if the book really moves like Kazuhiro promised earlier. Curious, she wants to see how it works, so he shows her the magic of the CD. The machine whirs to life, and Mariabelle is left totally amazed by the moving pictures. Mariabelle, in a way, believes it might be some kind of magic, but Kazuhiro tells her no, it's animation, and those movements are generated through many hand-drawn pictures that simulate real movements. Mariabelle is shocked, but after a while, Kazuhiro finishes preparing the dessert while she continues watching the CD content. The elf is absolutely delighted with the taste of the dessert, so she suggests to Kazuhiro that they watch the movie from the beginning so he can explain it to her. He agrees, so he shuts everything down, because with less light, the experience is better. The movie itself has something to do with ancient Japan, and Kazuhiro explains to his elf that his grandfather lives in a place very similar to what she can observe. She'd like to visit that place someday, so Kazuhiro tells her that he would be happy to take her, as he will soon have a vacation. Mariabelle says it's fine, but only if it's not a bother. However, since Kazuhiro hasn't seen his grandfather in a long time, he'll take advantage of the opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, show Mariabelle the place, and visit his grandfather. After a couple of hours, the two of them have enjoyed the movie a lot, but the elf has enjoyed it the most, not hesitating to throw herself at Kazuhiro and tell him how incredible it was to see this thing. It was like looking at a book from inside the story, or stepping into someone's imagination. He tells her that, in fact, that's an accurate perception, and that in Japan, there are tons of anime, video games, and fun things for otakus. Of course, he warns her that once she learns the language, she'll have more fun than she can imagine. This serves as motivation for Maribel, as now she wants to learn Japanese more than ever. But the situation gets a little awkward given the perception they are in. However, in the end, she just asked to watch the movie once more. Clearly, Kazuhiro feels a little strange after such an experience, so he decides to prepare dinner right away. While he's cooking, something happens that, at least to me, is very scary: an earthquake. The good thing is that it doesn't last long, but suddenly Maribel runs to hug Kazuhiro because she doesn't understand what's going on. Obviously, she has nothing on her, so you can imagine the situation that ensues. Luckily, Kazuhiro feels proud of himself for having kept his composure like a champion. After a while, Maribel has completely recovered from the embarrassment of what happened and quickly apologizes to Kazuhiro. He tells her it's fine and that he should have warned her in advance that earthquakes or tremors are common in Japan. The good thing is that the situation is resolved immediately. Finally, it's time to eat. Kazuhiro has prepared some curry with very good spices, and even though it's a bit spicy, Maribel can't stop eating because it's so delicious. Kazuhiro mentions that in some desert areas of the world, they use a wide variety of spices. But now that the word desert has been mentioned, Maribel just remembered the monster from before. They've also forgotten about that problem today. She feels a bit lazy because it will take a long time to leave that place safe and sound. But Kazuhiro tells her that from time to time, it spawns in a different place, although he doubts that will be the case this time. The elf notices that he seems a bit unconcerned. Maribel warns him that just because they were able to come to this world alive, it doesn't mean the lives from the dream world don't matter. The protagonist tells her he is well aware of that, but he doubts the danger is still present in that place. Moreover, they have the advantage that once they return, they'll be able to use the teleportation ability. When they come back, they can escape immediately. But now that they think about it, they are a bit worried about the boy from before. The poor kid was clearly very scared and was being forced to summon the monster. Everything points to the fact that the bandits have him captive. So, Kazuhiro would like to help him somehow. He proposes coming up with a plan to do so, and Maribel agrees. However, now that she remembers, she had read in the records that creatures from the beast race of cats were experts in using magical stones. Since she couldn't see his face very well, she's not sure if that's the case, but it's likely that he's one of them. Later, in bed, Kazuhiro is reading the book they brought from the library, and he starts reflecting on how much his life has changed since Maribel has been by his side. Before, he was only interested in the world of his dreams, and when he lived with his grandfather, he didn't care about the landscape outside, no matter how beautiful it was. But now that he's with her, he's sure that seeing that landscape would mean something very different compared to back then. For now, all that's left is to sleep and see what the dream world has in store for them. Kazuhiro wakes up in his dream world, only to find Maribel shouting in frustration about how she couldn't listen to the story from the book because she fell asleep. After greeting each other, Maribel points out the sand, saying it looks incredible. Kazuhiro glances at it and tells her that it might be because of a monster's attack. As they get ready, they bump fists to officially form a party. Maribel smiles, saying this is the first time she has ever formed a party with him. Kazuhiro admits he doesn't get many chances to form parties. Maribel teasingly points out that it's because he's too shy for that kind of stuff. Kazuhiro fires back, saying she's not the one to talk. With the party now established, they can communicate with each other even when they are far apart, and with that, their adventure truly begins. And, well, this is how today's episode ends. If you've made it to the end, comment ELF, and I'll see you in the next video.
We see an old catman showing a stone to a child named Mavi. As soon as Mavi touches it, the stone begins to glow. The old cat explains that their family has been guarding this stone for generations, managing its power. He reveals that among all the magical stones, this one is the most powerful. However, it was also responsible for the destruction of their village. Hearing this, Mavi falls into deep thought. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Kazuhiro and Mari. Kazuhiro turns to Mari and says they need to start their plan now. They must save the child and defeat the bandits. Mari immediately understands. They had already planned everything in advance. She uses her magic and turns invisible. Kazuhiro, impressed, warns her not to get into too much trouble. Mari was about to take on a giant monster, but reassures him that she'll be fine and tells him to take care of himself too. With that, they split up to carry out their mission. Earlier, they had planned to find the child first. They predicted that the bandits would use him to awaken the monster, which would give them a chance to talk to the child. Mari had also decided to distract the monster during that time. Kazuhiro warned her it was risky, but she was confident and told him not to worry. Back in the present, Kazuhiro spots a suspicious figure and alerts Mari. They immediately put their plan into motion. Mari summons fire lizards and hides them in the sand. Kazuhiro signals it's time to attack. Mari commands the fire lizards to set a coconut tree ablaze. Meanwhile, a bandit notices Kazuhiro and rushes to inform his master. Finally, the monster awakens. Kazuhiro immediately asks Mari if she's okay. She assures him she's fine, but asks about the child. Kazuhiro spots the child holding the magical stone. Seeing this, Mari feels relieved. Mari's fire lizards unleash a series of fire strikes at the monster. Kazuhiro, watching, is amazed. He realizes how powerful magic truly is, and wonders if he should learn it too, especially spirit magic. Meanwhile, the child cries out in fear, calling for his grandpa to save him. Kazuhiro approaches, but Mavi, terrified, pleads for him not to hurt him. Kazuhiro notices the child's feet. He's chained. He realizes Mavi has been treated like a prisoner. He reassures him that there's nothing to fear. He won't hurt him. Mavi is shocked that Kazuhiro can understand him. Kazuhiro asks how he ended up there alone. Mavi explains that he is weak and was hiding with his grandpa, who always warned him that humans were dangerous. One day, humans attacked them, killing his grandpa. Mavi was the only survivor. Kazuhiro feels deeply sorry for the child. He tells Mavi not to worry. He will help him. He understands that Mavi doesn't trust humans, but he asks him to trust him. Mavi hesitates, but ultimately agrees, asking Kazuhiro to save him. He also admits that he cannot use his monster powers to attack anyone. Kazuhiro tells him that's a good thing. Suddenly, the bandit army attacks. Kazuhiro swiftly dodges the attack and shields Mavi. The bandit leader steps forward, recognizing Kazuhiro from before. He now understands how Kazuhiro disappeared the previous night. His incredible speed must have helped him escape with the elf. Akahiro smirks and confirms his guess. He then asks the leader to help unchain the child, noting that the chains seem unusual. The bandit leader offers a deal. He'll free the child in exchange for Kazuhiro's bag. The chains can only be broken with a special stone. Kazuhiro doesn't hesitate. He refuses to make a deal with the bandit. Instead, he dashes forward and shatters the stone with his sword. The child's chains break instantly. The bandit leader grins and warns that none of them will be spared. He will kill them all. The bandits charge toward Kazuhiro, but he skillfully dodges every attack. Suddenly, a strong opponent steps up. He transforms his arm into a shield, blocking Kazuhiro's sword. Kazuhiro loses balance but tricks his opponent, making him fall into the water below. The bandit leader, furious, yells at his men to stop them from escaping. Kazuhiro quickly returns to Mavi, who looks at him in awe. "Brother, that was amazing. How did you do that?" Kazuhiro explains that his attack is so fast that it creates an illusion. He calls this skill Illusion Shadow Man. He admits he is weak, which is why he relies on such techniques. Mavi agrees, saying, "You really are weak." Kazuhiro laughs and responds, "You're right, that monster would have killed me easily." He warns Mavi to take care of himself, then asks him to wait while he steps away for a moment. Meanwhile, two bandits are searching for Kazuhiro. One of them spots him, but Kazuhiro swiftly dodges the attack and knocks him out with a single blow. The second bandit tries to attack, but Kazuhiro vanishes and reappears elsewhere. Mari appears and asks, "Are you okay?" Kazuhiro reassures her, "I'm perfectly fine." Mari then warns, "It looks like the monster has gone underwater." Their plan was going well, but suddenly, Kazuhiro notices a leader figure searching for him. Two people sit beside the leader, and Kazuhiro wonders, are they watching the monster? Something feels off. Just then, the leader smirks and says, "Finally, we found her. She's hiding there." Kazuhiro is shocked that they can see Mari. The leader orders his men, "Go and capture her." As the two henchmen approach, Kazuhiro realizes he must act fast. The leader grins, saying, "Everything is going just as I planned." He then launches a fire attack, causing a massive explosion. Kazuhiro dodges, but the two bandits are killed. He is shocked, thinking, this guy doesn't even care about his own people. Is the treasure really that important to him? The leader mocks Kazuhiro. You can run all you want, but I'll always find you. I already know where you'll appear next. He then points at a child and smirks. Next time, you'll come from there. Kazuhiro realizes that the leader has captured the child. The leader threatens, if you don't slow down, I'll burn this child alive. Kazuhiro is forced to comply and moves closer to the child. The leader smirks. Good, I knew you would come. But you won't be able to teleport away with the child. You'll be too heavy. Kazuhiro considers this and realizes the leader might be right. To trick him, Kazuhiro throws his sword down and says, don't worry, weight won't be an issue. Then he grabs the child and suddenly disappears. However, he can't teleport far, and both of them fall into the sand. Kazuhiro quickly asks, are you okay? Mavi replies, yes, I'm fine. Kazuhiro picks him up and starts running. Meanwhile, the furious leader yells, I won't let you escape with the stone. Suddenly, the monster appears. It instantly wipes out the remaining bandits. Seeing the creature, Mavi trembles with fear, while Kazuhiro is stunned. That thing is massive. Kazuhiro realizes, if I die here, I'll return to Japan, but Mari will be trapped here forever. I can't let that happen. He then notices something. The monster isn't moving. Tentacles slowly extend toward Mavi, but they stop right in front of him. Kazuhiro wonders, is it trying to communicate? Mavi pulls out the magical stone from his pocket and explains, Grandpa Jin told me this stone is special. It destroyed our village. When used, it can summon a deep earth monster, which caused destruction before. That's why our ancestors ran away, and we cat humans have been hiding ever since, so no one misuses this stone. Kazuhiro nods. So the monster came looking for the stone. Mavi apologizes to the creature and returns the stone. The monster takes the stone and silently leaves, vanishing underground. Kazuhiro watches in awe. It just disappeared, without a word. Suddenly, the ground shifts, revealing an underground dungeon. Kazuhiro and Mavi stare in shock. At that moment, Mari arrives. Seeing the dungeon, she exclaims, this is an amazing discovery. Kazuhiro, still in disbelief, replies, yeah, I can't believe it either. Mori notices Mavi and finds him adorable. She hugs him tightly, making Kazuhiro smile. As night falls, soldiers arrive, assuring them, don't worry, we'll capture any surviving bandits. Thank you for helping us. Kazuhiro requests, make sure the child is well protected. A soldier agrees, yes, we'll need him if we ever find another stone. Will they explore it? Kitase excitedly tells Maribel that he has received special permission to explore the dungeon. However, Maribel refuses and asks why he wants to go inside. Kitase is curious about her hesitation, and she explains that even if he has permission, she might not be allowed to enter. She also mentions that the dungeon is mysterious and could be dangerous. Kitase then casually says that he was planning to go with someone else. Maribel looks surprised and asks if that means he does not want to go with her. Kitase chuckles and assures her that he was only joking. Of course he wants to go with her. Hearing this, Maribel blushes slightly, but agrees to go with him. Inside a bag, a glowing heart crystal is visible, the same one the dragon had given them. Meanwhile, in another place, the dragon is shocked to discover that someone has opened the dungeon's door. She worries that the people entering have no idea how dangerous it is. At the same time, her eggs start to hatch. She sighs, wishing Kitase and Maribel were there to see her children. She also hopes to meet Kitase again someday and share a meal together. Back in Japan, Kitase and Maribel have breakfast. Maribel, as always, enjoys the food. This time, freshly baked bread and an omelet. After the meal, Kitase gets ready for work and reminds Maribel that they will head to the other world later that night when he returns. Meanwhile, they discuss how Maribel can get permission to enter the dungeon. She suggests proving their abilities to the guild, and Kitase agrees, knowing it will not be easy. Maribel insists they need a solid plan to earn the guild's trust. Before leaving, Kitase says goodbye. Maribel, holding onto his sleeve, shyly wishes him luck. Kitase smiles at her and heads out. Alone at home, Maribel decides to clean up, making sure everything looks spotless. Afterward, she sits down to study, but time flies, and soon it is lunchtime. She heads to the kitchen, recalling Kitase's instructions about the exact temperature and timing to heat her food in the oven. Carefully following his guidance, she sets the timer and waits. However, she grows impatient and keeps checking the food, wondering when it will be ready. Finally, the timer beeps, and the meal is perfectly cooked. She sits in front of the TV, watching cartoons while enjoying her meal. The taste is wonderful, and she savors every bite. Meanwhile, Kitase is having lunch at work when Maribel crosses his mind. Just then, he receives a message from Kako, asking if he liked the picture book. She mentions that it was also her favorite. Kitase replies that Maribel loved it too, and they continue chatting. At that moment, Kitase realizes that Kako was actually Maribel's first friend in Japan after him. They decide to meet up, and Kako sounds excited. Later, Kitase and Maribel arrive at a restaurant to meet Kako. Maribel is fascinated by the elegant place. When she takes a sip of her coffee, she finds it unbearably bitter. Kitase laughs and reminds her that she forgot to add sugar. He stirs some in and asks her to try again. This time, she finds it much better and happily remarks that human food is always delicious. As they chat, Maribel playfully pulls Kitase's cheek. They joke around until Kako finally arrives and thanks them for waiting. She reintroduces herself, and the man with her is her husband, Toru Ichijo. Kitase and Toru exchange greetings, while Maribel suddenly blushes. Kako teases her, saying, "There is no need to be so flustered." Toru then mentions that his wife often talks about Kitase. Kako playfully smacks Toru, which confuses Maribel. She turns to Kitase and asks why Kako hit him. Kitase chuckles and tells her it is nothing serious. They all head inside. The restaurant looks very fancy, and Maribel is captivated by the beautiful interior. Kitase tells her it is a French restaurant and assumes it might be her first time trying French cuisine. However, when Kitase looks at the menu, he realizes the prices are shockingly high. He wonders if he can afford the meal, but Toru reminds him that they were invited and encourages him to enjoy the meal without worrying about the cost. As Maribel looks at the table, she notices an unusual number of forks and spoons. Curious, she asks why there are so many. Kitase explains that they will need different utensils for different dishes. He admits that he has never been to a French restaurant before, so he isn't sure how it all works either. Seeing all the fancy utensils, Maribel gets excited. Before long, the food starts arriving, one dish after another. Maribel enjoys every bite, savoring the new flavors. The group laughs and chats as they enjoy their meal together. Then, Kaori mentions that a special dish is still on the way. Maribel, confused, asks what it could be. Kitase explains that it is one of the restaurant's signature dishes. When the dish finally arrives, Maribel takes a bite and is completely amazed. It tastes so different and delicious. She excitedly exclaims that French food is incredible. Kitase then reminds everyone that dessert is still left. Maribel grabs his arm and shakes him playfully, saying she's already full and has no idea how she'll eat anything else. Just then, they realize that the others at the table are watching them, making them both a little embarrassed. The group smiles and teases them, saying they look adorable together. Toru suddenly asks a question, catching Kitase off guard. Looking surprised, Kitase quickly denies whatever it was. Later, as they drink coffee, Kaori gives Maribel a compliment. However, Maribel doesn't understand because Kaori speaks in Japanese. Kitase translates for her, and she happily thanks Kaori, explaining that she has been learning Japanese and is starting to understand more. Kitase also mentions that Maribel has recently started watching Japanese movies to improve her skills. Changing the topic, Kitase shares that they are planning a trip since Maribel really wants to explore new places. Toru suggests visiting Chichibu and starts talking about the famous hot springs there, even showing pictures. Curious, Maribel asks what hot springs are. Kitase explains that they are natural baths known for their relaxing properties. He asks if she would like to visit, and without hesitation, Maribel excitedly agrees. Kate immediately offers to book the tickets, and just like that, the plan is set. As the evening comes to an end, Kitase expresses how much he enjoyed the day, saying it was truly wonderful. Torua, who hasn't felt this happy in a long time, seems to really enjoy Maribel's company. The group is seen laughing and having a great time, something that Kitase quietly notices. Later, Kako asks Kitase if she can invite Maribel over for a movie night. Kitase agrees, and Kako suggests having it on Monday. When Kitase tells Maribel about the invitation, she is thrilled. However, he begins to worry about her safety. He knows the world isn't always kind. Not that he suspects Kako, but trouble can come from anywhere. Maribel reassures him that she will be fine. Torua also promises that he and his wife will take good care of her. On their way home, Maribel admits that at first she felt uneasy about eating with strangers, but because Kitase was there, she wasn't nervous at all. She thanks him, saying he is truly a great person. She then hesitates before adding that it might sound odd, but she just wanted to let him know. Kitase smiles and thanks her as well, feeling happy about the moment. Suddenly, Maribel wonders why she struggles to do anything alone. Kitase explains that this world is much more dangerous than the one she came from, and that people here can be cruel. He then thanks Maribel for coming to Japan, for becoming part of his life. Both of them blush, and for a moment, they even hold hands. Before heading home, Kitase shares an exciting idea about exploring new places together. Maribel appreciates his concern but reminds him not to worry too much. They continue their conversation in a lighthearted way, joking and enjoying each other's company. Next day, a man explains that they are finally going to explore a dungeon. This dungeon is ancient, mysterious, and extremely powerful, perhaps even stronger than a AA rank dungeon. In fact, it's assumed to be exceptionally powerful. Mari asks why everyone is celebrating if the dungeon is so dangerous. Kita explains that the more dangerous the dungeon, the greater the treasure and the higher the rewards. The man continues, saying they have sealed the area where they discovered the magical stone, allowing only their people to enter. He also mentions that the Erlaw country is about to prosper, so they can enjoy this moment. Hearing this, everyone around them becomes cheerful. Kita and Maru, however, realize that while the dungeon offers great rewards, it is equally dangerous. What happens next will depend on their journey ahead. After that, the meeting concludes, but no one leaves. Kita mentions that everyone is sharing information and they should do the same. Mari agrees, but says that in Japan she talks to strangers, so now it's his turn. She prepares him to go collect information. As she fixes his outfit, both of them blush. Later, Mari takes Kita somewhere. He asks where they are going, and Mari reveals that they are about to meet a famous magician named Master Aja. When they arrive, Aja sees Kita and the elf and immediately recognizes them as the ones who discovered the dungeon. Mari introduces herself, followed by Kita. However, the old man suddenly says he feels like half of Kita's body is not in this world. Then, he laughs and says he was just joking. Kita and Mari are shocked by his remark. The old man continues, pointing out that none of the people there seem to be adventurers. They all belong to wealthy families. Kita speculates that they are there because of the magical stone. The old man agrees but tells Kita that his thinking is too negative for his age. He then jokingly asks Mari if living with Kita is troublesome. Mari immediately denies it, saying she enjoys being with Kita. The old man laughs, saying, "Looks like we can't judge a book by its cover." Kita, meanwhile, feels embarrassed. The old man admits that he doesn't know much about the magical stone, except that it is around 200 years old. However, there is very little written about it in historical records, as if someone deliberately erased its history. He advises them not to focus too much on such things. Then, he calls for Hakam, the same man who gave the speech earlier. He asks if Hakam has forgotten to give the kids something. When Hakam arrives, he introduces himself and says he is giving them permission to explore the dungeon. However, this doesn't mean they can enter alone. Kita reassures him that they won't do anything reckless. Kita then expresses concern that they might not be able to explore the dungeon at all. Aja asks why, and Kita explains that Mari hasn't received permission from her guild yet. Aja responds that he doesn't think they are capable of handling the dungeon alone. Hakam adds that he recently learned they are foreigners, and they don't need to prove themselves. Aja observes that Kita is trying to act tough, while Mari is exactly as she appears. Then, Aja whispers something in Hakam's ear, making everyone around them talk about Kita and Mari living together. Kita, embarrassed, tries to explain that there's nothing between them, but both of them blush heavily. Aja, clearly enjoying himself, laughs at their reactions. Finally, Kita and Mari leave, relieved that the nonsense is over. However, they still have some distance to travel. Mari gets frustrated because she doesn't feel like walking in the heat. Just then, they spot a clothing store with colorful outfits. They decide to go inside. The shopkeeper comments that they look cute together. Kita picks out an outfit for Mari and suggests she try it on. Mari hesitates, worried that her guildmaster would scold her, but she tries it on anyway. She looks stunning in the outfit, and both Kita and the shopkeeper think the same. The shopkeeper then gives Kita a mask to put on Mari. When she wears it, she looks even more beautiful, making Kita blush like a tomato. Later, they go to see Hakam. Kita apologizes for being late. When Hakam sees Mari, he is surprised because she looks absolutely stunning. As they head inside, Mavi arrives and thanks Kita for saving him. However, Mari gets attached to Mavi and enjoys spending time with him. Hakam apologizes for calling them back, but explains that very few people can understand the cat-human language. Kita reassures him that it's no problem. He's happy to help, and also happy to see Mavi again. Kita then asks about Mavi's progress in learning normal language. However, Hakam and Mavi exchange sad looks, implying that the progress has been poor. Kita realizes that things aren't going well in this regard. Hakam then asks Kita about the magical stone, since he has seen it before. Kita admits he doesn't know much. Mari asks Mavi if he can touch the stone again, as he is capable of using its power. When Mavi uses his magic on the stone, Hakam is shocked because he is witnessing it for the first time. Mari also says she can feel a strong magical presence in the stone. This time, the stone's color is different, which surprises Kita. He recalls that the last time he saw it, its glow was much stronger. Mavi explains that the stone has become weaker. He also mentions that its smell has changed. Kita tells Hakam that for now, they simply refer to it as the magical stone. Hakam agrees and says he will report this information. However, he apologizes as he has to leave, allowing Kita and Mari to spend time with Mavi. Kita and Mari assure him that they will be fine. After that, Hakam leaves, and Kita asks Mavi if he is hungry. Mavi replies that he isn't too hungry, but Kita takes out his lunch and Mavi is surprised because he has never seen such food before. Then, Maria starts feeding him with her own hands. Mavi, feeling shy, says he can eat by himself, but Maria still feeds him. When Mavi tastes it, he finds it absolutely delicious. He wonders what magic Kita has in his hands that makes everyone obsessed with his cooking. Mavi ends up eating a lot and lies down comfortably. Maria tells him that she enjoys spending time with him. Then, Kita takes out 2 stones from his pocket and asks Mavi if he can check them. Maria identifies them as a scale and dragon blood. Mavi says he might not be able to test them, but still decides to try. The stone starts glowing and Mavi is amazed. He cannot believe what he is seeing and exclaims how incredible it is. Kita is also confused because the dragon had told him that nothing had fallen from its side and that its magic would only grow stronger over time. Kita realizes that Mavi might not be able to handle its power as it is overflowing. Mavi, however, insists that he can control it, but he struggles. They are all puzzled, thinking that no one is more powerful than the dragon, and that maybe it is asleep, which is why the stone is not working properly. Suddenly, the stone glows even more intensely. Kita suspects that the dragon might be able to hear their conversation. He asks the dragon if there is any problem, and the stone glows even brighter. They decide to go and check things out themselves. Meanwhile, at Maria's guild, members discuss their plan to explore a dangerous dungeon. Since it is ranked higher than AA, they need a strong person to go. A man volunteers, saying that a AA dungeon is nothing to him. A woman adds that the dungeon is not that dangerous, but many people have withdrawn their names, either out of fear or due to some unknown disturbance. She also wants to enter the dungeon. They both claim they can handle the situation on their own and will find whatever is inside. The man questions the woman's decision and asks if she has a death wish for wanting to accompany him. She responds that the moment to act is near, but he remains confused. The guild leader decides to end the discussion and says they will finalize plans later. As the man is about to leave, a childlike person approaches and asks if it's true that he is going into the dungeon. This excites the child, who imagines all the treasures they could find. The man, however, states that they must first enter and destroy everything inside. Elsewhere, Kita and his group are led by a monster toward the dragon's location. Kita thanks the monster for its help. When they reach the spot, the monster refuses to go any further and leaves. Kita and the others feel slightly nervous, fearing that the dragon might have forgotten about them. If it has, things could get dangerous. Inside, the cave is dark, and they suddenly see baby dragons. The babies are incredibly cute, despite how terrifying their mother is. The dragon greets them, acknowledging their return. Everyone admires how adorable the baby dragons are and congratulates the mother. Then, the dragon transforms into its human form and asks them to hand over something. Kita is confused about what she is talking about. The dragon excitedly keeps repeating that she is finally going to get it. She demands her lunchbox, but when she sees that it is empty, she is devastated. She starts crying hysterically, rolling on the ground. Kita is shocked at how upset she is over lunch. The baby dragons, still looking adorable, climb onto their mother. The scene is heartwarming and amusing. The dragon, however, cries even louder about not getting food. Kita reassures her, promising to bring lunch next time. He even suggests that she could visit his real world, which excites the dragon even more. She eagerly agrees and starts jumping with joy. Maria questions if that is even possible, but Kita says he doesn't know. They eventually leave, and Maria comments that Kita is truly careless. The scene shifts back to the real world where they spend the weekend. Finally, they return to the elf world, bringing plenty of food this time. Outside the door, they spot the same green-hailed man from before. We see the same two people who were chasing Kitase. As they continue their pursuit, they enter a dungeon and are completely shocked when they see Kitase talking to a lizard monster. As they move further in, they come across a statue. The girl gets extremely scared upon seeing it and refuses to go any further. She explains that this is no ordinary statue. It acts as a bodyguard that protects the area and has killed many intruders before. Then, the boss uses his skills to see into the distance, and what he witnesses leaves him even more stunned. He sees dragon hatchlings and an actual dragon. He can't believe his eyes, wondering how a real dragon could be there. Suddenly, the statue monster notices them and moves to attack. The child gets terrified as the monster is about to strike, but the scene cuts there. Meanwhile, the dragon also senses something, but chooses to ignore it and tells her children that it's time to sleep. Next, we see the two people again, but they have teleported to another location. The guy now realizes that Kitase is no ordinary human. He is incredibly dangerous, especially since a dragon is his friend. This revelation shocks him. Afterward, we see Kitase at home. Not only is the elf with him, but now the dragon is also in this world, which surprises Kitase. Mari is also completely taken aback. In the next scene, the dragon appears to be very excited. She looks around and says, "So this is the real world? Japan!" She turns toward Kitase and asks why he's looking away. At this moment, Mari is blushing a lot and tells the dragon to turn around because her outfit is too revealing. Mari then tells Kitase that he doesn't need to look away, but should cover his eyes instead. Kitase obediently follows her instructions. Mari tells the dragon that she can't go out like this, not because of her outfit, but because of her size and tail, which would frighten people. The dragon reassures them that there's no need to worry. She casts a magical spell, and Mari explains to Kitase what's happening. As Kitase is about to turn and look, Mari covers his eyes. When the spell is complete, the dragon now has an outfit, and she looks stunning. At this point, I feel like she should be the main character instead. It would make Welcome to Japan Miss Dragon even more exciting. Even the elf admires the dragon's outfit. Then they all go out for a walk. Kitase asks the dragon how she feels, and she responds that while it's okay, something feels off since it's her first time experiencing this world. Meanwhile, Mari is thrilled, excitedly looking at the tall buildings. The dragon is confused about why she's so excited, but Mari asks, "Aren't you excited too?" The dragon admits that she also finds it fascinating. Kitase keeps calling her Dragon, so she finally says, "You don't need to call me Dragon, I have a name." She introduces herself as Ridra. They continue talking, and Kitase asks Mari to open a box. Inside, they find something similar to rice balls. Both Mari and Ridra get excited. After all, we know how much the dragon loves lunch boxes. When Ridra tastes it, she finds it delicious and thinks her children would love it too. She keeps most of it for herself, while Mari protests, asking her to leave some for them. Finally, they reach their destination, a place with a hot spring. Ridra finds it amazing. Mari puts on a cap, and when Ridra asks why, they explain that Mari's ears are too big, which might surprise people. Ridra considers this and then uses magic to make Mari's ears disappear, replacing them with hair. Mari is overjoyed because now she can go out without a cap. Kitase compliments Ridra's incredible magic. Kitase gives them another food item. Ridra initially finds it unappealing, but after tasting it, she and Mari absolutely love it. They praise Kitase, calling the dish amazing. Eventually, they reach the hotel where the hot spring is located. Entering the establishment, they are immediately taken by the cozy atmosphere. As soon as they reach their room, they waste no time lying down enjoying the comfort of the place. Kitase then takes the opportunity to show them the hot spring. Mari assumes it to be just an ordinary bath, but Kitase explains its significance, clarifying that men and women have separate sections for bathing. Shortly after, Mari and Vrida prepare to enter the hot spring. They are immediately captivated by the serene setting. Before stepping in, Mari recalls Kitase mentioning that they should wash their bodies before soaking in the hot water. Following his advice, they cleanse themselves first before entering the spring. As they immerse themselves, they find the experience incredibly soothing and refreshing. While enjoying the tranquil moment, Vrida brings up the topic of potential danger, asking if Mari intends to face it.
That's when Mavi's words came back to them. Maybe the dragon was still connected to the stone, allowing it to sense everything about them. The conversation drifted from one topic to another, eventually landing on Kitase. It was hard to believe, but he had once hugged an elf. Mari never expected to hear something like that, and the thought alone made her blush. Embarrassed, she tried to brush it off, but Vrida wouldn't let it go. Then, out of nowhere, Vrida asked if Mari had ever thought about kissing him. The question hit her like a lightning bolt. Her face turned red, and she quickly denied it, insisting that the idea had never even crossed her mind. But her flustered reaction said otherwise. Their attention shifted when they noticed two girls leaving the steam room, talking excitedly about how amazing it was. Seeing their enthusiasm, Mari and Vrida couldn't wait to go in. But when they opened the door, two women were already inside. With no choice but to wait, they stood outside, growing more eager by the second. Finally, it was their turn. As soon as they stepped inside, the warmth wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. It felt incredible. As they relaxed, Mari suddenly brought up something that had been bothering her. Why did everyone think she was weak? That led to a deeper discussion about dragons. They weren't like humans. Their bodies worked differently, almost like spirits rather than physical beings. It made sense, but it still felt strange to think about. Then came the question that completely caught Mari off guard. How did she feel when she touched him? Her face burned with embarrassment. But Vrida just laughed, telling her not to overthink it. Instead, she nudged Mari to talk about her first meeting with Kitase. Mari shrugged it off, saying she didn't think he found her attractive. After all, he had never touched her or kissed her, not even once. In her mind, that was proof enough. But Vrida shook her head, insisting that Kitase cared about her more than she realized. If she really wanted to know how he felt, there was only one way to find out. Later, Mari sat next to Kitase by the hot spring, dipping her feet into the warm water. They talked casually, drinks in hand, letting the atmosphere settle between them. She felt nervous, but also curious. Taking a deep breath, she leaned in and placed a soft kiss on his forehead. Then she pulled away, searching his face for a reaction. Her heart pounded. What was he thinking? Did this mean anything to him? Vrida's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes, actions speak louder than words. With that, she smiled, stood up, and told him she'd see him later. Kitase watched her leave, clearly lost in thought. Back in their rooms, Vrida wasted no time going back to her usual antics, already complaining about how hungry she was. And you all were out having fun, while I was left here crying. Once again, the tears started flowing, and Kitase was asked for forgiveness. After that, they all went out to enjoy some delicious food. The moment they saw the feast in front of them, their eyes lit up with excitement. So much food! As soon as they took the first bite, their happiness doubled. The food was unbelievably tasty, especially for the dragon, who was completely enjoying it. Vrida, completely overwhelmed by the flavors, started acting silly again. Kitase couldn't help but think how childish Vrida seemed while eating. It was hard to believe she was such a fearsome dragon. Meanwhile, the dragon was enjoying a drink, but Mari kept trying to stop her. The two ended up bickering like children, turning it into a full-blown argument. Kitase watched them, amused, thinking that they looked just like sisters.
Later, Kitase was seen sitting quietly, staring at his forehead, clearly lost in thought. That moment had affected him more than he expected, and with that, the episode came to an end.